Next question. And you can answer from the perspective of a coach, and you can answer from the perspective as like a therapist. What do you think are some good questions to ask for someone to figure out whether or not this professional is a good fit for them?
Oh, wow. Go ahead, Ken.
For me, what I always suggest is when you talk to a prospective coach or therapist, ask them if they know who Pia Melody is and her through. But if they don't, to me, if they don't, you know, that to me is a huge red flag if they're not fully invested in Pia Melody's work.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that they need to be emotion centered, not cognitive centered, since every thought, everything we do starts with an emotion. So you'll learn great skills and tools to cover over something, but you won't address the root issue if you're pursuing a cognitive process. I think something that would at least matter to me is, what do they see their style as? Like I said, I needed somebody who could be transparent and share their story. Many
Mm-hmm.
coaches and therapists, that's
Won't do
not
that.
their
Yep.
style. Well, again, so you have to look at yourself and what matters to you. But at least from what I've experienced, most of my clients come from people who've been, with psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, and they haven't found a solution. They haven't been able to get over the top, and primarily that's because of those main things. There's
Mm-hmm.
no real clear understanding.
Of who that person is.
Understanding of codependence. There's a lack of relationship within the process, who they worked with, and it was mostly cognitive based, not emotion based. So those have been the things that have shown up the most for me, and why, if you look at my reviews, that's what they point to is I've spent all this time and money and never, had this progress because none of them dealt with these things. So
Yeah, or opened
my
up.
experience. Yeah.
Perfect. Mike?
It's harder for me to answer that better than what Kenny just said, but
Yeah, it was a good answer.
I don't know that there are questions to ask as much as there are observations to make.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
do I feel heard? Does this person seem to want to connect with me? The emphasis on, building a trust relationship. I am doing something I haven't done in years, since I started doing neurofeedback. When I started doing neurofeedback, I pretty much set aside my therapy, my counseling practice. But I now have new patients or new clients. And so it's starting at the beginning with them. And, for me, it's doing a lot of listening and asking a lot of questions and wanting, like, if you were to come in, I'd be asking you questions about yourself for me, actually, to discern, where guidance and direction is going to go. And also because I want to know them. I want to know what triggers them, and I want to know how they defend themselves. Kenny mentioned cognitive, and I'm not totally sure what he is, because all therapy has a cognitive element in it to some extent. But, is this person experienced? Is this person willing to go with me?
Mm.
Are they handing me a workbook, right away? If they are, work yourself right out of there.
Take that book and get on out.
That's not therapy. I mean, there are places to do that, but you have to have a relationship. And I mean, I believe you have to have a relationship. Otherwise, we don't get to the real stuff.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Someone said to me that, the average person quits therapy in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And if you're not committed beyond 6 weeks, you're just not ready. It's not a bad thing about you. You're just not ready to look at what's going on with you. I think it's important that they can talk a little bit about their walk,
Mm-hmm.
how they, and that should come out sort of in a natural way, not like, hey, tell me about your walk. No, do they tell you about themselves? Do they tell you about their walk? Not in a sense of, I need you as a therapist to validate me, not that kind of thing, but, just to communicate real life. I I went to a master EMDR therapist. I had an incident and I went to this master guy, wrote books and stuff like that. And he was, really good at EMDR. So we kind of worked through the first issue, and the second issue, I said, well, I have this problem. And at the time it was, I would have thoughts about my wife dying all the time. And he said, well, just don't think about that.
Oh,
And I
thanks.
went, and he's, this is in Colorado Springs, and he's $275 an hour. And I looked at him, I said, what? And I said, so your response, Mr. Master Therapist, to me is quit doing it.
Hmm.
And I said, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. And I
Mm.
got up and left.